We are back again with another episode of Quality Time with Uncle Drew, and we have a very special guest here. Coach Don Pellum has over 30 plus years of college coaching experience as a coach and a player, and is one of the best dressed men walking this planet that you will ever see, whether you're at the airport, whether you're at church, whether you're just out buying some groceries on the
Mm.
weekend. Coach DP is that dude. So I'm happy to welcome him, Coach Don Pellum. How are you doing, Coach?
Drew, I am blessed and highly favored, and you know that. Yes, indeed. Doing well, man. Excited to have an opportunity to sit out here and chop it up with you. It's been a little while. We've talked about getting together for a long time, and it's kind of exciting to finally make this happen.
We do. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time like usual. For those that don't know, so for me, I went to the University of Oregon. Coach Pellum was cutting his teeth at Oregon. He played there. He was a coach there for not many years, not to date you, but he was a tenured coach there once I went there as a freshman, and we had some similarities that we shared. But one of the things I like to talk to Coach Pellum about is that he was one of the first people that I saw outside of my dad. He was one of the first people that I always saw, and he was dressed up to the nines, suit, three-piece, the shoes, hat, had he had the collars on, collar stays. He had everything going, and that's how he do, and that's how he showed up. Did you have a cane as well, or am I imagining that?
Coach Cam had the cane. I
Okay.
have one, but Coach Cam worked his a little more than I worked mine.
Okay. So we had two awesome, young, awesome African American coaches who paved the way and were really great at Oregon with what they did with recruiting, with coaching, with all of that stuff. And so, Coach, I want to ask you, where do you get your sense of style from?
You know, Drew, when I was a kid, um, people dressed up, man. I mean, everywhere you go down to the store, you see somebody clean. You go to church and boy, it was like a fashion show. And I will say this, them hats some of them ladies wore, whew, blew away what the men had. I mean, they had the scarves and hey, it was, man, it was awesome. But all the pictures in the house, around my house and everywhere you went, you always see people dressed up. And so I just at a young age was like, I'm gonna always dress up. Even in college where the cats was wearing just sweats. Man, I had on my khakis, they was creased up. I mean, whatever it was just coming from that environment of looking good. And part of that's respecting yourself. Uh, people dressed up to travel. It's pretty neat. I just returned from a trip. And man, the amount of compliments I got, because now that I'm kind of doing my own thing, I'm not out as much. But it's amazing when people see you dressed up, how many compliments, just how much people appreciate
Mhm.
that. And, I grew up thinking that way. And I knew I needed to be an example for all the young men that was coming behind us. Me and Coach Camp both was like, no, we got to do this right for the young folks coming up. So that was part of how we were trying to give back to all of you guys.
Dang. You guys definitely put your stamp on that. And like I said, you've had a big impact and a big influence on me. Especially even when we later in life when we worked at UCLA together, I'm like, all right, I gotta have my weekend fit because I know Coach Pellum is coming. And and not that you're trying to outdress anybody, like you said, you've gotten to the habit of getting and buying nice threads and putting nice threads on, which I greatly appreciate. We had a conversation a while ago, and you talked about getting, you used to travel a lot for Oregon, recruiting the California area. And you said, how the flight attendants would treat you when you walked on the plane. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I just experienced the same thing. On this last trip, you're walking, you're in the line, and you're coming onto the plane, and you can just see how people are, they're handing out the little alcohol swabs, and which is fine. And all of a sudden, look at them, they see you, and it's like, oh my gosh, hello, sir, how are you? Oh my gosh, would you like one of these? Gosh, you look so nice. It's just a totally different feeling, and I, people appreciate it. They appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into, I mean, back in I'm going to stop there.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go. It's on you.
No, no, just no, no. No, but it's all to say that people appreciate it. People respect it. And there's days where I've gotten on a plane, I've been out in public in my sweatshirt and jeans or something, and people don't even notice me. And I'm the same guy. I come back, see that same person in a different time, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, hi!" Almost like they've never seen me before.
Hmm.
Um, so from a business standpoint, I think it really makes a difference how you present yourself. Initially, I mean, specifically for initial meetings. Just the first time, that first impression, I think, is just money to go in there and bam, just give it to them.
100%. I love that, coach. And then the underlying thing about that, and we didn't speak about it too much, but we know it. Just being an African American male, and sometimes what that entails. We're still athletic. I'm not going to just say me. You still work out. You still look very good.
How about that?
Don't do that. Don't. You still look very good for the work you've put in for what you do with coaching. I've seen you up working out on the mezzanine, getting it in on the treadmill, the stairmaster, the glider, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But it's also that thing where it's like, no, like you said, you come from an era where you guys dressed up. It wasn't I'm dressing up because I got a funeral or a job interview or I'm trying to impress this young lady. It was this is how I dress 9 times out of 10. And when you see me wearing sweats or something, that's when I'm kind of dressed down or just going to run some errands or something like that. So you put that into my head where you're like, nah, this is how we dressed and this was the standard.
Yeah, it's standard, man. It's a standard, and it's about who we are.
Mm.
When you see me, you can expect this. I mean, this is me. This is not just something, and it's nice to watch you. I mean, it's nice to be at UCLA with you, and now you're a young professional. You're done playing, and now you're actually starting your career. And then you came out with that heat on me. I'm like, Drew, what you doing, man? But
I
I
had
was as proud as I can be of you because you were being you, doing you, and looking really good doing it, man. Looking really good.
Thank you. I had a good mentor and I had a good person that I was watching from the sidelines while they in the game, getting it in, doing what
Mm,
they doing. So I appreciate
mm,
you for that, coach.
mm.
I wanna ask you a very interesting question because I know last year. So as we talk about traveling and being on planes, last year you took a very special trip, and I know we were trying to get together and talk last year, but you were over here on a pilgrimage, checking them out in Israel and things like that. How was that trip going over and really digging into some things and seeing some places that were in the Bible and places that we've read about?
Uh, Man, it was unreal, Drew. And it's interesting because there's been a couple. I think there's been 2 years. It was right. It was like say maybe 2 months before the war broke out over there. So it's been a little time. But it was amazing, to trace the steps of Jesus all the way to where the cross is, to just kind of go through and stop at every station. It broke down to 12 stations and really relive that. And it's in a market where you're hearing all the sounds, all the local sounds, where it's the singing and the chanting. And I mean, it was really intense, to see how close things are. Over here, we lose perspective, man. I
Mhm.
keep thinking, you read the Bible, and they walked from here and they went from Egypt to Jordan, all these places. And in my mind, that was like forever. And you get there and you're standing in Israel and you look across this body of water over here, this big lake, and there's some land over there. You can see the lights at night. Well, that's the Dead Sea, and that's Jordan.
Mhm.
And when you start putting it in perspective, I mean, we went to Bethlehem, which was in the West Bank, which was on the other side of this fence. And I said to our tour guide, I said, "Excuse me," I said, this gate, this fence is the fence. That's the fence between where Israel is and the West Bank and Gaza and Palestine and all of that." I said, "Man, why don't they just shoot a missile?" It was only like 40 miles away, Drew. I'm tripping. I'm like, man. Eh, And they said, no, no, no. They said that the normal people here, Bethlehem is too important. And it's
Mhm.
important to the Jews. It's important to the Muslims. It's important to the Christians. The normal people, no one's gonna mess with this. Because I'm serious. I'm like, man, they could blow this thing up anytime. But it's just interesting to see the respect for the people
Mhm.
and the cultures. And then obviously, there's the other sect of people that are, that are a little different. But it was amazing. That part was amazing, man. And then getting on a big ship and cruising down the Nile, right? You know what? Because I'm one of those guys. I want to see it. You know, I'm a little kid, Africa, the Nile. I got to see. I'm going to see the Nile, right? Right. And so we're cruising down the Nile, man, and just sitting there thinking of all the things I've heard about Africa and I've seen about Africa. And now we're in Northern Africa, but still I've heard about the Nile since I was a little itty bitty one, man. And we
Mm,
went right down all the way down to the end, and just to see that part of the history, and it was really interesting because up north in North, let's say it's North Africa, the the people didn't look as they looked more like Mediterranean. That was kind of the look. The closer we got down the river towards Sudan, down the way, hey, what's up, my brother, my brother, my brother? It was really cool, man. That was really cool. But just to see the Holy Land, man, and to see the people, and like I said, to go where Jesus was born, and to see that, man, it was so intense, Drew. So there's a long line, like I mean, a long line. In fact, we weren't gonna even try to go see it
uh-huh.
because the line was too long. It's a 4 hour line, and we're like, no. And so we went in around the other side, and we're just looking at everything else. There's a big line here, and the security guard gave us the old, come on over, took us in the back way. Right. So all of a sudden we come down this back way. They got cats over here just diving in there. Like you go in there for like 30 seconds and people are praying and giving their respect. And then these security guys would just yank them and throw them, and two more people just dive in there. Man, I got it on video. It was intense. It was intense. But no, it was just a wonderful experience, man. I appreciate you remembering to follow up and ask me about that.
No, 100%. Like I said, we were supposed to talk around that time. And when you were telling me you told me a while before that, you're like, yeah, we're gonna do some traveling. And I'm like, well, shoot, well, let's make sure we talk after you travel because I
Yeah.
want to definitely hear about that. When you talk about being a football coach for so long, I know there are certain times of the year you get time off or whatever. But with you planning this trip and doing this trip, was this the most extended amount of time you had to be able to do a trip like this? And that's why it took so long for you to do it?
I would say this, Drew. Every other year we tried to take a big trip, but what made it different, and what you said is absolutely correct. When you're a coach, you're locked into travel seasons. So you get a month in July or 3 weeks in July, and that's it. You might get a week at Christmas, you might get a week at spring break. You're locked in.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, there's no way you could take a trip that started in March and you came back in end of April. That's spring ball. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So that's why we were able to finally start putting some of these on the map. Just got back from the Amazon, right? Because that's the other river. Had to see it. Flew into the middle of Amazon, and here was my idea, right? So this is my idea, Drew. We're gonna fly in the Amazon, and then we're gonna hop on a rubber tube and drift out, right?
Mm.
Right. And get nibbled up by the piranhas and everything else in there. Get in that water, man. But it was really cool to contrast the Nile and then a year later go see the Amazon.
Uh-huh.
Because the Amazon's so much bigger. I mean, that's amazing. Uh, but yeah, those once again, both of those trips were occurring in May and March. And then we took another trip in October, which is football season. So with the season not being locked in has been a beautiful thing for me and my wife to get together and spend some time and catch up and enjoy some of God's beautiful earth.
Yeah, I love that, coach. You hit the nail on the head. Like you said, not a lot of time to travel as a coach. So then even when you do have time or do have some time off, it's like, all right, well, I got football right around the corner. I got a wife I gotta please. I gotta make sure she's happy because she lets me go and do this football thing that I love to do so much. And and then you also know, like you said, it's a week here, it's maybe 2 or 3 weeks here.
Yeah.
And so you really have to be cognizant of that because it's like, all right, well, I have to give myself some downtime too because I'm about to be working like a dog here coming up here pretty soon. Um, so I would say I'm going to go ahead and jump into the questions because, oh, matter of fact, there were two other questions I want to ask.
Hmm.
So with you taking the trip to Israel, you're a God fearing man. I remember being in Oregon. We go to FCA Thursday nights and meet and talk. We did that at UCLA. We're really one of those people, or just a relationship between us. We talked about the word a lot. Do
Yes.
you have a favorite Bible verse or a chapter that you really like that you that's been with you or that you like to fall back on into?
Yeah, I do. I have a couple of them, but I would say if I had to identify one, it's going to be Romans 12. I know it's 12, 1 or 2, probably it's Romans 12, 1 or 12, 2. It's 12, 2. And it's um, be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Mm,
And for me, that speaks so much because so many things happen. It's so easy to get caught up in things, and you need to be transformed. You need to be transformed by renewing. The renewal is I got to stop thinking whatever this negative thing is. I got to get past whatever that anger is. I got to get past that person over there and get back to my mission. I got to get back grounded to God in my mission. So be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And that's a bunch of them, but that one's has been a real anchor for me in my career and in my personal life because I don't need to get upset. I don't need to do this. I just need to get back to what I was doing, get back to the mission, be
mm,
transformed.
mm.
It's in fact, it's like, don't be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. There it is. Don't be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's the one. Romans.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Romans 1. Thank you. And I think even more so, it's more important today with everything that's going on, the political climate, what we're seeing every time we turn on the TV, what we have in the palm of our hand with social media, with Facebook, with just everything, we can kind of get drawn away from that. And that's one thing I like about the Bible. It brings you back to the things that matter. It brings you back, like you said, being grounded and being focused and being renewed. And those are some things you said right there, which I really love. Before we get into the real questioning, you're a very interesting individual, Coach. Like I've said that you're real mysterious in a way, but you're really interesting to the point where, like, like I said, the way you dress, the way you carry yourself. What is the idea of a perfect day for Coach Don Pellum?
Okay, that is a wonderful question. In this current life that I'm in right now, um, I'm sleeping in, but the older you get, sleep in means 6:30
Uh-huh.
because you just get up. At 5:30, you just get up. But I'm gonna hop up. I'm gonna slam a V8, get the tilt out, uh, and then I'm gonna spend about 30 to 45, 30 minutes an hour on the devotional. And I'm
Okay.
pretty consistent about probably 5 days a week, 5 to 6 a week. Then, because I'm retired, I'm going to go in and have coffee with my wife. Because for 20 some years, 26 years, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have coffee. Then I'm going to come back and sit in my office and just go through my board of things to do, my little personal business, those things. Then it's a workout, lunch, come back in and do a little more. In the afternoon, it's going to be connecting to people. So some
Mhm.
texts, some phone calls, just connecting to the fellows, the brotherhood, all of us. And then it's time for dinner. So about 3:30, go ahead and start, whatever that thing is for the day, whatever the meal of the day, start putting it together. And that's a perfect day, especially now because now that I'm not coaching, we're blocking times for vacation.
Uh-huh.
So every day is the same until we go on vacation. Every day is the same, and it's been wonderful. I've been really happy doing it. Um, so it's been good. It's been good. It's been a blessing, obviously.
Mm. Blessing. One thing you said there, so you guys do the cooking together? Do you do the cooking? Like I see you say y'all start prepping or you start prepping 3:30 for getting dinner ready. Like, is that you've always been in the kitchen or that's always been another arsenal, another thing in your belt that you had?
Yes, sir. When I was young, man, mom worked a job, pop worked. Mom worked two jobs, pop worked, drove truck half the year, did construction half the year, and mom taught us how to cook early. She was like, "No, no, no. Today is you. Today is you. When you come home, here's what you got to do." And then when I was in high school, I worked in a restaurant and worked up from a dishwasher to a chef.
Okay.
So I learned a little bit there. And then I think, I believe this for anyone, watching this, when you start getting closer to marriage or closer to relationships that are really getting tight, you have to have some hobbies. You have to have some things that you both love to do. And my wife's from a cooking family. I mean, let me ask you this, Drew. Was Guido's on campus when you were there? The original Guido's? It was gone.
It was gone.
Okay, well, the original one, my wife's family owned it. I mean, there's some cooking fools. So we tag team it, man. We go in there. Turn on the news, a glass of wine. All right, let's go, and we just go get them. And that's probably, shoot, maybe once a month we might go out. Maybe once a month. Other than that, everything's in house.
Ain't nothing like some home cooked food. I'll tell you that
Yeah.
much.
And you know what else? It's just you're building a bond with the person you love. You're doing something together that you both enjoy. So it's good. It is good.
Awesome. See, I would have never guessed the DP was in the kitchen
Oh
doing
man.
throwing down. I did would have never guessed you can went from the bus boy to the chef. Like I never I never knew. That's why I said you very interesting. There's a lot of layers to you. I knew when I said it. I didn't know what exactly I felt there, but I knew it, coach.
Yeah, next time you up this way, you got to come through. I got to show you this outdoor kitchen, man. You will appreciate it.
Okay,
You'll appreciate
100%. Switching gears from that a little bit. So,
it.
like you said, coach and college player for 30 plus years.
Hmm.
You did something that, not to say it's not going to happen anymore, but it's very hard to work and get a job offered at your alma mater, to play somewhere and then to come back and coach there. What was it like to play and coach for your alma mater, University of Oregon?
It was honor, a privilege. Um, to get that opportunity. I think Coach Brooks hired. I think maybe three of us. Well, me and Grable were the two on that staff. But you know what it is, man? It's a lot of pressure because you don't want to let anybody down, right? It's you know I've gone to some other universities and the players come back and they don't know the coaches because the coaches have been changing so much. But at our
Mm,
place for that 30 something years, every player that came back during that time, we were still there.
yeah.
And so, you take a loss and you walking out the tunnel and you see those former players, man, and it's like it's not just us, yes, the fans, but it's like, man, I let them dudes down.
Mm,
So that part, it was an honor and it was a responsibility. But I loved it, man, to see all you dudes come back. You look up, you don't even know who's in town because when the players come back, they have their own little things going on, and you just happen to see them for 2 minutes. Hey, coach, it's like, hey, 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 and they gone because they're off doing what they do. But no, it was wonderful, man, to be here and see all those guys that we'd worked with for all those years, particularly in those lean years when we were finding a way to develop guys.
yeah.
It's great, man. I was blessed. I'm proud of it.
Mm. That's one thing I rant and rave about Oregon with when I was choosing a college to go to. Oregon was on the list, but I took a trip there because of Uncle Phil. Uncle Phil graduated from there. Uncle Phil pumped a lot of money into there. So I'm like, my high school coach said, man, go check it out. Go see what's up. And when I went there, my trip, we got our butt kicked by Arizona. It was raining the whole time. I just remember getting this sourdough bread of clam chowder at the game. Like I remember that was busting. That was good. But outside of that, when everybody's like, what took you to Oregon? And I was like, it was a place I felt very comfortable. But also, you look across the coaching staff, and I didn't have to worry, is this head coach going to be here for my whole 4 years here? Coach Radcliffe had been there 20 plus years. You were there for 15, 20 plus years. Coach Campbell, you can go down the line. Coach Aliotti had done a couple stints there already. Like you can go across the board and see like that turnover wasn't something that happened a lot at the University of Oregon. Like you were going to get that continuity. So as you talk about your time there and spending 24 seasons there and you being able to be like, well, it was nice to see all these players come back. That's also a reason why all the players came back, because they're like, yeah, I know the coach. I played for him, or I lined up against his guys. Like he coached me on special teams. So that's a big reason for people to come back too, because as Oregon has had some change now, I can point to like guys in the equipment room like Kenny or Chief and Kim and Travis in the training room area. But as far as coaches, like I don't know anybody now. So I'm a little bit more disconnected, and it's occurring to me like that's what happens across college football. Like a lot of people didn't have that experience to come back and to see these same coaches and to be able to stop by their offices or come to a spring ball practice or something like that. So I wanted to give you your flowers on just doing, like you said, it was difficult because there's a lot of pressure involved a little bit. You feel like you let people down with the games or when you didn't win or when you come up a little bit short. But we know how hard you guys work. We know what the standard is and what we have brought it up to over the years. So I just wanted to continue to thank you that even I know you feel that pressure and you're like, oh man, we gotta win, we gotta do it. But we know we if you've come through Oregon, Oregon hasn't been the juggernaut that it's always been. We know that for sure. So I just want to thank you again for that, coach. And
Right on, right on. Thank you.
and while
Thank you,
we're
man.
while we're on the subject of just talking about
Mhm.
your expertise in coaching, what advice would you give these young players and these parents that are in middle school or youth sports and high school that want to play college ball? As a former coach and as a parent as well, what advice would you give the young athletes and parents that are still trying to get scholarships and are trying to go and play football beyond high school?
Let me break that down, Drew. So are we looking at like students that are being recruited now, or just let me say, are they being recruited, or are they just trying to find a way to get recruited? If you're, the number one thing I would say to anyone, high school athlete going into trying to get into Division 1, is you have to do research now. And part of it's what you just said, Drew. If you have aspirations of going to college, which coming out of your high school, if you get recruited by Division 1 or Division 2, whatever division is, then someone believes you can play. Okay. If you have any aspirations of being extremely successful at that level and or the next level, which is very hard to accomplish, you need to find someone. You need to do some research on the coaches and find out who people are. When I first got started at Oregon, and my recruiting area was I had Southern California, but I used to go to Long Beach Poly, and there was one coach who sat in just about every home visit, and
Mm,
his name was Merle Cole, and he's the man. Man, what a wonderful man. And he didn't want no handouts. He didn't want no nothing. All he wanted to know was who was going to develop his players. And if you were going to be position coach, he wanted to talk to you about what were you going to do to develop this person into a great football player, but into a man,
mm,
into a man. And part of what's happening in today's society with portholes and transfers, all those things, which there's some good things about, good aspects about all the transformation in college athletics, but no one's talking about who's going to develop them.
yeah.
No one's talking about, okay, I'm going to go someplace and stay there for a while and maximize my potential. No, those conversations get lost. But those used to be the first conversations. If my kid goes to your school, well, who's going to develop it? In fact, my son is a 6'1" wide receiver. He's 4'6". He's got good hands, but he's not super fast. Have you ever coached someone like that?
Mm,
That's the type of questions you would get. I mean, that's how wired in everyone is, and I would say get wired in on who these guys have coached, and if you can find out what type of people they are. When you get around, just don't get caught up in all the flash and dash and all the fun. Pay attention to them. Ask questions to the kids, because at the end of the day, in a perfect world, if you could go to a place, if they could go to a place, find a place where they feel comfortable and stay there for 4 years and grind it out, they will become the best person they can be. One part of the transfer situation now is young men halfway through the season shut it down. Right.
mm,
So check it out. Drew, you played in the NFL. Check it out. So you get 4 years of college, and maybe five, depending on how you do it, 4 or 5 years of college to prepare yourself for the pros. There's young men that are transferring twice. So I get halfway through the season, I'm not gonna play. This is not it. I already made up in my mind I'm transferring. So you shut it down. So for 4 or 5 months, you just gave away development,
mm,
right? You just gave it away instead of being out there freaking throwing and fighting for it. So then you did it a couple of times. Are you your best in the 4 years or 5 years? Or did you leave some reps? Did you let some get away? Because after 4 or 5 years, it's done. Whatever you are, that's what you are. So
mm.
the advice, find a place that you're comfortable. Really get into them coaches and find out what the plan is and what can they do, who have they developed, and then go all in. Go all in, go all in. Don't go in with one foot in and I can transfer if it don't work. No, go in there like I'm gonna take my spot like we used to have to do it. I'm gonna stay here. The first year I ain't playing. Spring ball come up, somebody losing their spot. Are they gonna fight to the end? That's the way you build character and fight through things.
Man, you just set a bar. You said that's how you build character. And
Mm,
I just
mm.
you just said so much over there. We don't have the time to go over everything. We'll double back one day, just transfer
Yep.
portal, what everything is now. But one of the biggest things is like a school is recruiting you, but you're also recruiting them. Like you're also trying to see, is this a good fit for me? So it's not just, hey, we offered you a scholarship, we want to come play here, and you come check out all the good stuff we have. You got to look at your position coach and saying, is this the best position coach for me? Is this the best offense or defensive scheme schematically for me? The conversations now, and I know you've dealt with it probably more than anybody, is one of the first questions parents ask is he going to play the first year? And you're like, well, he ain't even on campus yet, man. We don't even know how he's going to translate from high school to college. We don't know
Yeah.
if how he's going to do with class, with a full schedule. You don't know how he's going to do with me yelling at him in 110-degree heat. And
Yep.
you want to know if he's going to play already.
Yep. And how strong is he?
Yeah.
Because there's gonna be distractions. So how focused is he really? Yeah.
Just even those things, like we can get into a whole nother
Yeah.
conversation, but
We
there's
should. We should do that one day.
we will. And I feel like now, and not to act like, not to sound like an old head, but now with NIL, with money that's around, I sometimes feel like the players and the parents see the college as the end goal now. And like you said, like, where am I going to go get developed? Where am I going to be able to, you said you have 3 to 5 years to play and possibly go on to the next level to play. But what happens when you get $300,000 as an 18-year-old freshman? You know, like
I can show you. I could drive around the corner right now. I live right by this university around the corner from me. I could I could turn my camera on and just let you see what happens. The car lot's like a car show now, which all that's good. All
yeah,
that's good if that's not distracting you from grinding it out. Because what used to happen, and you notice, Drew, is we used to scrap, man. We used to scrap. We didn't have a whole lot of money. We learned how to budget. We learned how to fight. We learned how to do a lot of things. And we will see in the next 2 years how these changes in college athletics are affecting because the new graduation rates are coming out. All that stuff. It's 5 year, right?
yeah.
It's the graduation rates are 5 years. So we'll see how this stuff is, how the changes are truly affecting, progress towards building men, because that's what it's about.
Man, that's the second time you said like not just making and building football players, but building men, the
And
people that have to go out in this world and be productive and provide for a family and things of that nature. You also said something great. You said, man, we had to fight, we had to scratch, we had to claw. There's something in saying like, when you're broke in college or you ain't got much and you're around other people that ain't got much, y'all find a way to pull through, and whatever it is for that night, that day, that weekend, y'all ain't got much, but whatever little bit we do got, we're gonna share it and we're gonna pull it together and we're gonna put it all in this. I was talking to a couple people from Oregon and I was asking, like, Eugene is a very small town, and you got a lot of people that come. We got a lot of guys from California that come to Eugene, but on the weekends you're there. You know what I mean? It's 2 days, you don't have much time to go anywhere, you're there. I was talking to a couple of my people at Oregon, and they were like, I'm like, what's a regular weekend like at Oregon? They're like, well, you never really know because the players, some fly to Vegas, some are going here, some are going there. And so you're like, maybe when we had a 3-day weekend, maybe some guys would drive down to California and go home, or maybe they would go someplace. But now you have, all these guys with money, like you said, which is good. But now they don't have to sit in one place, or they don't have to sit here and be bored, or, build team camaraderie on the weekend. And it's much more of a business. And I think everybody knows that.
yeah,
But it's also crazy to know that in small Eugene, that's still what happens as well.
yeah, yeah, I agree. It's really interesting, man.
Mhm.
Really interesting.
Okay. And then just moving on, man. So you were a coach, you were a recruiting coordinator at Oregon. What did you look for on film from a player? What did you look for on film from a player? And then also, once you were able to meet them in their school or at their home, what are some things as a coach you look for, some green flags and some red flags for players that you're coming across, whether you're like, okay, this is a guy, this is an Oregon guy, or this is a guy that belongs in our room, in our meeting room, or these are some things like, I saw this from him or from some people he's around, and I don't think it's going to work out?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. These are really good, really, really good questions. The thing on film, on film, you can see. For us, I want to see toughness, and I'll give examples: a linebacker, or someone we're recruiting as a linebacker. Because as you know, we developed a lot of guys that didn't play linebacker
Mm-hmm.
to linebacker, right? Guys like Spence that was a wide receiver, safety, probably more wide receiver, who played in the league for what 5 years, 6 years.
At least.
But you're looking for toughness.
Mm-hmm.
You want, and how do you see toughness? Well, there's a runner, a ball carrier, and here comes the defensive guy, and the defensive guy is in perfect position, and something happens, he doesn't make the tackle. Oh, he's blinking his eyes. Can't change that. You can't change that. That's a tough one. But you want to see toughness on the film. I want to see toughness, and in high school, you want to see guys make a lot of plays.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a Division I player and you're on the field and you're a starter and your stats are, two, three tackles, two, three tackles, unless you're DB. But if you're in that box, particular linebacker, there should be some productivity. So we look for that, okay, and you get your grade. Yeah, yeah, he does that. He's tough. You can see him. Will he put his face in it? Yes. Can he get off of a block, or does he just let people grab him? All right, get off the block, great. A guy that's being held is not good, because some guys never get that. That's why you used to see us out there early doing all that hand stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, then Drew, in person, when I saw a guy in person, I would like to go to the school. So when we say in person, you go see him at school and then you go on a home visit most of the time. I would like to just go to the school, and it's pretty cool because you mention the guy's name and you listen, and the security guard at the front would be like, Drew Davis? Oh yeah, man, that kid's the bomb, man. Yeah, you gonna love him. Or they might go, DP? Yeah, I'll call coach for you. Now, he ain't said nothing, but he just said everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you go over at lunch, and you see where the fellows hang out, and you just sit over on the far side. You stand back in the cut. Okay. And it was a little easier for me because I was never in like logo shirts. I was always in suits. They was like, oh, that's an administrator. They didn't it didn't phase them, right? So I could just stand over and just watch him and just trying to see what kind of character this is. Just how does he interact with people? Just trying to get a vibe. And then when we went in the home, that was for me a lot an opportunity to say what we're about, right? To talk about those pillars, the academic pillar and the athletic pillar. If he does what he's supposed to, he's going to take care of that. And then the social pillar, which is, we got to handle, and then the spiritual pillar, because it's going to be some dark days and you have to get this thing right because they're coming. We have to be right. And just see how they reacted to what, our program at Oregon, in particular linebacker in my room. This is what's going to transpire. And if this isn't right, because it's a two-way street, if this isn't right, then this is good that we've had this discussion and we got this out and you guys are not cool with that. And so we can all move on, because at the end of the day, you're trying to find the right fit. The last component of that, Drew, is going to a game. So when you go to a game, it's not about watching them play on the field per se. It's watching how they respond when things go good and when things go bad. Often, you go see some cats and the coach has told you the leader and things are bad, and he's on the sideline, he's hoorahing the cats and he's slapping them on the head and he's still in there. There's some guys come off the field and they throw their hat on the ground and start yelling and screaming. X. So that's what you do with the live evaluation, is a chance to really evaluate character under pressure. And that's how we looked at it.
Evaluating character under pressure. You
Mm-hmm.
said something very interesting. You said, at Oregon, or just in your room, we've turned a lot of people who weren't linebackers into linebackers.
Mm-hmm.
And on that subject, we have Kane Madrano, who was in one of our first recruiting classes at UCLA, played
Mm-hmm.
wide receiver, moves over to linebacker. I'm not sure if it was after the first year or the second year. I'm not 100% sure. But the linebackers, and we'll get to it. The linebackers that are at the combine ran yesterday.
Okay.
Kane Madrano runs a 4.46.
Yeah.
Fastest time for linebackers at the combine for those people that ran.
Yeah.
I talked to a couple clients the other day about, sometimes you get to college and they switch your position or based upon, like you talked about, strength or, how you've accumulated or not accumulated, but uh, how you've grown or not grown once you've got to college. And there's some people that are just out of position. Like you said, you look for people that make plays in high school, you get them in college. We could find a place for you if you make some plays. What was it like having Kane switch positions and come into your room? He's still an undersized linebacker, I would still say, but
Mhm.
with a special skill set. What do you remember about the situation with Kane?
It was Kane had some natural abilities, just like so many of those guys. It's like AT. AT was a wide receiver. I mean, there was some great ability there. And I remember with Kane, right off the bat, it's like, Kane, you have the ability to really, really do well. Here's what you have to do. You got this part. Here's the other part of it. And the whole situation as we went through it was to get him to truly buy into it. Buy into what? Truly, when we hit the sleds, try to break it. Just don't hit it. Try to break that damn thing in half. And it was a real chore, or there was we as a partnership, we worked hard on getting him mad, getting that part out, because that's what you have to do. I'll tell you what, it was the same thing with Wesley Mallard. And Wesley played it 7 years, I believe, and he was a DB wide receiver. And we would work Wes to a point where he would freaking almost be in tears, and then we'd have to blow the whistle because he was just breaking people in half.
Mhm.
But that's where we were with Kane. It's like, okay, Kane, we got to do it. So really had to push that button a lot, because it's in there. It's just you got to get it to the top. It's in here. We got to get it to the top. It's like it's some gold. We just got to heat it up and get the bad stuff out. It's like this diamonds, but we just got to put some pressure on it till they shine at the
Mhm.
combine, running 4.4 something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Putting it on at the biggest stage that he can.
man,
S-
man.
Speaking to you as a coach, DP, you have like your standard is high. And I know that. And I wasn't even in your position room, growing up and coming through college. But you hear this saying that, sometimes players take the personality of their coach. And I believe that in a way. But I also believe that, like you say, the standard is the standard. You're there throughout every year, in and out of every year for at Oregon and UCLA. I knew that the linebackers were going to be ready. I knew that they were going to be on their cues and for their cues for pulling guards, for pass, for whatever runs coming. I knew that they were going to have all the answers to the test when it came game day, and it was up to them to go out there and to execute it. And you look at that, and it's not by accident. It was you guys are the first ones on the field. You guys are doing work before everybody's out there. You guys are doing work after everybody's gone. You guys are doing work in between on special teams if somebody's not starting or first string or second. You know what I mean? Like I know that's
Over
what
there.
the makeup of a Don Pellum linebacker is. And you held those guys to a very high standard. You worked them very hard. And I'm pretty sure you heard some moaning and groaning sometimes through some things.
Mhm.
But what do your players say now when they see you, or after they've graduated, like they see you after a game, or they see you, coming to a practice? What do those same players say to you now that you had back then?
Coach, thank you. Lots of thank yous, lots of thank yous. It's amazing, Drew, because I was trying to get those guys to shift their perspective, right? And once they start to shift perspectives and it made sense to them, it's like your fellows. If the pro scouts come and you are the only group out there working, what are you telling them? It was all of those things and putting it in perspective, right? They only take, the Wasserman's here. He's got a job for one person. He's watching practice. What does that look like? I mean, it's all those little things on top of, we get out. Drew, our deal was this. If it comes down to hard work, we're winning. And if
Mhm.
you ask those dudes now, if it's hard work, I'm whooping it's going down. I'm just saying, that's just it. And so we had to do all those things from that perspective to make that come to fruition. But the guys have been awesome, man. I stay in touch with about a lot of them. I mentioned to you that In the afternoon, I do some texting and calling and stuff. I stay in contact with those cats because a lot of good people. And, and we were trying to, I used to tell those guys, we're going to, this is about being great dads and great people in the community. And we want to be that guy that when those little kids break a window or get in trouble and they don't know what to do, it's like, oh, let's go talk to Mr. Davis. Yeah, Mr. Davis. Now, the kids don't know why, but it's something about just the way you handle yourself and carry yourself and walk around that they go, that's the person we need to go see. That's what we were trying to build in, from a standpoint of building men in our rooms. And those guys have been awesome.
I will say you built a lot of great men that have gone on and done some great things in the NFL, but more so gone and be great dads, great husbands. That work ethic, I'm sure, has stayed with them through and through. Talking about you as a position coach, you had a chance to move up and be the defensive coordinator after the 2014 season or up until the 2014 season. What was that like going from a position for being a position coach for so long and then going and being the defensive coordinator that calls the plays and all the responsibilities change? How was that for you?
Drew, it was a wonderful opportunity. Um, I enjoyed every second of it. I did my personal best to make it, to make that experience and our unit as good as we could be. It's a difficult task. I shouldn't say that. Here's what I did. I took over and I contacted all the bright minds that I knew in football and figured out call sheets and just the rhythm of the game and all those things. Where I failed myself is that I should have took a more hands-on approach to everything on the defense. Now, as
Mm,
assistant coach, I was never fond of D coordinators that ran every meeting, that did everything. It's like you got four other coaches sitting in this room. We should break out and do our own things. After going through it, I understand why.
yeah.
Because, is you have to get your philosophy truly implemented throughout the entire team, throughout the entire unit. And although you guys agree on something in the meeting, just the way some of the other assistant coaches perceive what we just said is different than the way the coordinator.
Mm,
So I would go back and do a more holistic approach, tell everyone what we're doing, and then you assistant coaches go take them and do what you do, and then we come back as opposed to just sitting with the coaches and then letting the coaches do it. But I could have I would have been more successful had I thought of it a different way. But once again, going into it, I never wanted to be that coordinator that just sat and talked and talked and talked, which I had seen that. So, but it was wonderful, man. It was wonderful. I had some good GAs, Keldorf, who could run the linebacker. So I was able to step away and really look at the rest of the defense. But I failed myself in that one area.
yeah. No, you live and you learn. And this is also what I wanted to ask and talk about because like I said, you've been a position coach for so long. Was was the goal to ever be a defensive coordinator? Or you know what I mean? Like there's some you look at NFL jobs and some people say, okay, this person's a good coordinator, but they're not a good head coach or they're not head
Mhm.
coach material and whatnot. But was your goal in sight ever to move up to that level of defensive coordinator in your career, or were you just like, now I want to be a position coach because this is where I thrive and this is where I do best?
No, I would have loved to have been a defensive coordinator. Uh, the as I grew up the tree from the standpoint of early coach, now you're middle-aged coach. Um, to get the coordinator jobs I wanted, I would have had to probably go to some places I didn't want to go.
Mm,
Meaning, I thought at one point I was in all these programs. I mean, so the NCAA had a ton of programs to promote assistant coaches. I did every one of them, and so there was some opportunities, but I wasn't. I thought my assistant coach job here was better than going across the country for some to start some to be a D coordinator in some different places. So I hung around here, and once we got it going, and we were all staying, it was more like we realized why we were winning, right? We weren't winning early on because we had better talent. We were winning because we had figured out a way to do it our way with our kids, and everyone was staying, and it was working. And so it's like, you know what? This is a great job. Work with great people. And so I put it out of my mind, unless it happened here, I wasn't going to start jumping jobs to do it.
Yeah.
It just wasn't worth it.
I got you, coach. I
Yeah.
got you. I hear you. And so going after that, so 24 years at UCLA, I mean at UCLA, at Oregon as a coach.
Mhm.
They break everything down there. They get everybody out of there for a new regime. As you leave UCLA, what did you do between 2016 and 2018 before you went on and came to UCLA?
Okay. Yeah, you know what, Drew? 16, we got released. I started a business. I was starting my own business, Coach Pellum Solutions and Consulting. So I did that for a year, and then I've kind of kept it going. But that's what I did. And then we did some traveling. Went to Kenya, did some sports camps. Went to Mexico, did some football camps. Went to Panama. So I took it as an opportunity to get out and kind of test what I was thinking I wanted to do, and spent a lot of time with my wife. So it was a great year. And then Coach Kelly got that job, and I got the call, and like, you know what? I wasn't old enough to retire because I would have retired,
Okay.
but I needed a few more years to really be comfortable. So it worked. Yeah, it worked out. God's amazing. I'm just telling you, He's amazing. He worked that out to the T.
And that was going to be my next. That was that was going to be my next question. Actually, I was like, we're thinking about retirement in that time frame, but you answered it saying, "Nah, we didn't. We weren't where we needed to be, so we had a little while more to go." Um, so then you go after that time off. You go to UCLA. How was your time at UCLA? You spent so much time at Oregon. You spent so much time in the same kind of environment. You played there. You knew it very well. And now you go to a new college, new program, city that you know pretty well because you handle recruiting down there, though. What was that transition like coming to UCLA and trying to build something pretty much from the ground up?
Yeah. You know what, Drew? It was wonderful because I knew a fair amount about UCLA from the outside. I knew that there was a ton of kids in California. When Chip called me and I pulled out the roster and started looking at it, there was probably 25 kids I've been involved with recruiting that we didn't get that ended up down there. So I was familiar with some of the talent, and I knew the brand from just years of it. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity. The thing that was difficult was the roadblocks we ran into. I mean, I've worked at UC Berkeley, I worked at UC Berkeley, UCLA, and Oregon. And UC Berkeley and UCLA have some very difficult challenges ahead of them from the standpoint of the university and administration and just how athletics is viewed. So it was difficult from that standpoint. And I love the kids. I had some awesome guys in my room, and we worked our butts off, and we kind of got it going there, and need a couple players here, a couple players there. But it was wonderful because I was working with, for the most part, a bunch of really good guys, and we were all going in the right direction. It was good. I look up and you're there. It's good. I look up and there's some folks there, and we're like, okay, we feeling this, we feeling this. But it was good. It was really good to finish looking at or seeing something different, and really reflecting, going, you know what? I knew I should have stayed at Oregon because I had chances to leave there. I had some
Yeah.
chances to go to some other places in the NFL, and it's like, no, I did the right thing because we built something special from the bottom. And now it's like, we're 2-9 and 2-8 way back when. When I left there, we're 13-2 with number 2 in the country. So special.
Eric. No, you did, like you said, coach. You as long as you go through your coaching career and you don't have any regrets, I think you had a pretty good career. And considering that, either with coaching, you either get promoted or you get fired. Uh, we know what that business is like. And and I feel for coaches because it's never easy losing a job, no matter how much money you're getting paid because you're unemployed for that time. But nobody does the job to be fired. Nobody's out here saying, how can we miss as many tackles as possible? How can we let them average 50 points on our defense? Like nobody does that. But that's the hard thing about football and about sports is that there has to be a winner and there has to be a loser. But I would definitely say through your career, you've been a winner a lot more than you've been a loser per se, if I could
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah.
Always coached and taught your guys with the utmost amount of the standard that you have. And I want to say this, again, I appreciate that. I really do, Coach. And you've made tremendous impact every place that you've been with the people that you've coached and the people you've come into contact with. And you've also just been a beacon of light, when you walk around. You're that person that, when you walk into a room, you're in a meeting, you're going to bring the juice, you're going to bring the energy, and you're going to bring the knowledge that you've always had throughout your coaching career. So once again, man, Coach, I really appreciate you. The last question that I wanted to ask, and I wanted to give you the floor to say anything you wanted to say as well. But what continues to drive you post-coaching career?
That is a great question. I just spoke on this topic. You know what, Drew? What drives me is seeing people recognize what they have and pursuing it earlier. I'll give you an example. Most people don't think about people don't think about the end of their journey much. They think about every day to day, right? So, one of the things we tried to do, one of the things I did is my goal was, this is your journey out here, and this is your legacy line right here, and to try to get people to see what they can have down here, and to try to get them so fired up about the possibilities that all this little stuff along the way, they run through it because it's so much more important over here, the opportunities. With legacies, Fidelity says that people don't start thinking about legacy planning until they're 50 years old. Well, Drew, what if we got serious about it at 40? What could we additionally have at the end if we thought about it more at the beginning? And so I'm fired up about getting people to go back to that childlike passion. When you're a kid and you could run forever, and when you found something you loved, you could do it forever. Then you just pass out and someone put you in bed and throw a blanket on you, whatever, how that went down. But you could do that, and then we get bogged down in life with all this stuff. And I'm trying to get people to go back, grab that childlike passion, get it energetic about it, see what you want, and fricking start working hard. Shift your perspective to go get it and go. And so that's what drives me, man. It's a blessing. It's what we did for all those years, man. I'm so proud of all those years. I mean, it's just years and years of it. But that's what drives me, man. And that's in my own business right now, right? It's Coach Pellum Solutions and Consultings, and it's built on 3 pillars. There's a leadership pillar, there's a communication pillar. I call it battlefield communication because that's what it is. And there's a team building pillar, and I'm doing custom solutions going, okay, what's the problem? Can I really help you guys? Oh, this is the problem? Oh, yeah, 2005. I got you. I got you. I got you. Man, I've been through hundreds of those team building exercises and presenters and all that. And I've got all this stuff. And now it's like, how can I take this and use it and help people? And I was asked by one of my former players, Coach, why do you work with people outside of athletics? And this was a key. And I said, I failed you a little bit. I said, it has nothing to do with athletics. It's about competitors. I said, I work with competitors and they're everywhere. And my job is to find them and get them energized and get them running from this good thing or wherever they are to there. And that's what gets me going, man. That's what keeps me going, bro. And just so you know, I'm proud of you because that's what you do. And that's what you're doing. That's what you've always done. That's why one of the reasons our relationship has always been so good because you've been on one of those tracks. You figured things out a while back and you've been moving and doing a lot of good things and a lot of goodwill along the way. So appreciate you, man. Nothing but love.
Well, thank you, Coach. Like I said, have good coaches, have good mentors, have good people that I've looked at for the kind of template on what to do, and I've done my best to replicate that and make that a little bit better. But man, I love you, Coach. I appreciate you. Like you said, shift your perspective, run from good to great, and you work with competitors. And that's what in the sports industry, that's what we do. We're competitors. We go out there, we're trying to score more points than the other team. We're trying to stop the team from scoring points. But at the end of the day, we're trying to pick up that W, and that's what you're trying to get people to do now. And I really appreciate you. And I really think that you've fallen into the right thing. where you can
Appreciate that.
still be you and operate at a high level, which I love. But outside of that, Coach, man, thank you for your time. I'm looking forward to having you back on in the future. Maybe we can
Yeah.
have a more football focused or really break
Yes.
down some X's and O's. But outside of that, Coach, I want to thank you for your time, and I know there's going to be hundreds of people that get something great out of this interview. And I appreciate you giving me your time and your full, authentic, 100% you. And I look forward to doing this again in the near future.
You got it. What you say the word and we're on, my brother. Nothing but love. Take care of yourself, man.
Sounds good. I will, Coach.
Okay.